Very good afternoon, dear friends, dear colleagues. Let me start by welcoming and thanking Dario Nardella from Eurocities and Andrei Yermak from President Zelensky's team office for joining me in this initiative. Together today we are jointly launching the Generators of Hope campaign. The context is a difficult one. 10 million Ukrainians are currently without electricity as a result of Russia's attacks on critical civilian targeted infrastructure such as electricity transmission networks. Last night, a maternity hospital in Zaporizhzhia was brutally attacked, resulting in the death of a 2-day-old boy and serious damage to the ward. And this is just one terrible example of the devastation caused by the indiscriminate Russian bombing of civilian targets. This Parliament and the European Union have shown remarkable solidarity with Ukraine on the humanitarian, military and financial front, but now we need to make sure that what they need in terms of practical support as well to get through the winter, we find the necessary resources to get that and to make that happen. So to do this, we are teaming up with Eurocities, the network of Europe's more than 200 largest cities, in order to donate power generators to Ukraine. We do this in a very practical and concrete way. First of all, to bring energy and clean water to hospitals and people, to guarantee the everyday services that we take for granted. After this and after hearing from Dario and Andrei, will call on, in addition to the preparatory work that we've already done over the past days, cities and towns across Europe to join this campaign. We will also reach out further to other networks through all our 705 members of the European Parliament and beyond, in order to mobilise for this initiative. We already have a lot of informal commitments, but we will launch it now in order to make it formal. My last word: together we can make a real difference, and the needs are almost endless. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. We now go to Florence. Mr. Nardella, please go ahead.
Thank you to everybody, grazie a tutti. Vorrei anzitutto ringraziare a nome dell'associazione Eurocities che rappresento la Presidente Roberta Metsola per questa proposta di iniziativa molto importante, realizzata in pochissimo tempo, che consente a Eurocity di giocare un ruolo da protagonista nel rapporto con le città ucraine. Già il 19 di agosto a Kiev, con una delegazione di sindaci della nostra rete, abbiamo firmato con il capo dell'ufficio del Presidente, che è qui e che saluto, Andrei Yermak, un accordo per una collaborazione tra le città nella ricostruzione degli edifici pubblici delle città colpite dai bombardamenti russi. E ora, oltre alle molte iniziative che abbiamo organizzato nelle centinaia di città europee di solidarietà, possiamo fare qualcos'altro di molto concreto. Da quello che ci riferiscono i sindaci in Ucraina, l'arrivo dell'inverno sta causando problemi drammatici, serissimi. Dopo i bombardamenti dell'esercito russo sulle principali reti di approvvigionamento elettrico e idrico, le città ucraine vivono una condizione di vera e propria emergenza, ancora peggiore rispetto a quelle precedenti. Per questo siamo pronti a partire con questa campagna che ha l'obiettivo di consegnare nel giro di pochi giorni un numero rilevantissimo di generatori che serviranno a garantire l'approvvigionamento basilare minimo di elettricità alle città ucraine, piccole e grandi. Noi rappresentiamo più di 200 delle più grandi città europee e abbiamo già una rete molto attiva e operativa. Siamo pronti a lanciare un appello non solo ai nostri membri ma anche a tutti gli altri sindaci europei per aderire a questa campagna di solidarietà donando generatori elettrici alle città ucraine con il supporto delle istituzioni comunitarie e prima di tutto del Parlamento europeo. Avremo anche un incontro a Vienna la prossima settimana al quale parteciperanno più di 80 dirigenti tecnici delle città europee e quella sarà un'ulteriore occasione nella quale rafforzeremo la nostra iniziativa. Siamo accanto al Parlamento europeo per questo nuovo piano, siamo accanto alle città ucraine per esprimere non solo solidarietà a parole ma anche nei fatti e vogliamo essere protagonisti di questo nuovo piano di aiuti che serve immediatamente perché il tempo stringe, il freddo è fortissimo e l'emergenza da quello che ci riferiscono i nostri colleghi sindaci ucraini è davvero molto seria e non possiamo assolutamente rallentare o limitare il nostro impegno.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nardella. We now turn to Kiev and Mr. Yermak. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear President Metsola, dear President Nardella, first of all, I would like to thank Madam President Roberta Metsola for her unparalleled leadership and the strong support that Ukraine has been receiving from the European Parliament all these months since the Russian large-scale invasion started. I'd like to take this opportunity to applaud the European Parliament's today's decisions of the recognizing Russia as a terrorist regime, so much deserved. This resolution and our press conference today are very closely related. You all witnessed that in the recent months, Russia intensified its terrorist victim aimed and destructions of Ukrainians' critical infrastructure. Russia has already used over 4,000 various missiles against Ukraine and destroying half of this critical energy infrastructure. As of today, the attacks' impact has put our energy system resilience on edge. The speed of destruction has already exceeded the speed of reparation works. The risk of the full blackout is really very, very high. These days, the length and consequences can be fatal. Just to name a few epidemic diseases because of water supply and water treatment system fail. A full disruptions of heating system due to temperature swings. Failure of transportation and logistics systems, disruption of food supplies, extremely growing numbers of new IDPs and refugees. This has severely affected our civilian population on the eve of the upcoming winter. I must highlight the world's civilian population here. In the discussion of the imposing sanctions, which might not would be affected the civilians, we have been hearing so much care about the Russian civilian population from our partners. Given the energy infrastructure disaster in Ukraine, this equation looks just unfair to me. The project which we are launching today, thanks to the personal efforts of Madam Metsola and Mr. Nardella, is designed to help us to go through the most challenging winter in our modern history. This vital initiative of the European Parliament and the Eurocities network should consolidate efforts and all available support of European states, cities and regions to bring back electricity, heatings and water to the millions of Ukrainian households as well as hospitals and schools. Generators are the preliminary equipments that will ensure people's basic needs. We need them as a strategic reserve of the terms of full and continuous blackout that can take weeks in Ukrainian scenario. But our top priority is the energy grid immediate recovery. We need high voltage equipments, our transformers, circuit breakers, relays, surge arresters. We need to ensure generations and sustainable distribution of the energy to sustain our economy and manufacturing facilities. Dear colleagues, the biggest war in Europe in half of the century continues. However, Ukrainians with support of united Europe are convinced that we will be victorious and Russia will be defeated. We are grateful to Europeans and their institutions, such as the European Parliament and Eurocities, for standing by Ukraine to respond Russian terror attacks on our civilian people. Your support vital for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yermak. We'll now take a few questions. Please state your name and the media you represent. Please also specify to whom you would like to ask the question. Yes, the lady in the middle, I can't see with the mask.
Hi, this is Laura from the Spanish news agency EFE. My question, I guess, is from Mr. Nardella. You've spoken of some informal commitments already from cities to donate generators. Could you give us some numbers, maybe, on the number of generators that are already committed? And if I may introduce the national angle, could you tell us if any Spanish cities are donating generators under the initiative? Thank you.
Dunque, come è evidente, noi partiamo oggi con questa campagna. Come dicevo, ci siamo mossi con grande rapidità. Ho avuto modo di parlare con la Presidente Metsola appena 2 giorni fa e ci siamo già incontrati con lo staff tecnico di Eurocities. Vorrei ringraziare il nostro segretario generale Andrei Sobchak, che si è già attivato, quindi saremo in grado di darvi i numeri a partire dai prossimi giorni. La campagna comincia tra oggi e domani, ma sono fiducioso che le singole città di Eurocities invieranno più di un generatore, quindi abbiamo un potenziale di qualche centinaio di generatori di portata anche di tipo industriale, capaci quindi di alimentare strutture importanti. Ovviamente confidiamo nella adesione di tutte le città spagnole. Noi abbiamo un numero rilevante di città spagnole, tutte le principali, da Madrid a Barcellona, da Valencia a Siviglia, Bilbao. Abbiamo una rete molto diffusa e attiva di città spagnole che fanno parte di Eurocities e che stiamo contattando proprio in queste ore.
Perhaps I can add to that. So I was and continue to be in touch with Commissioner Lenarčič, who is responsible for the civil protection mechanism. And as you know, this has been activated already for Ukraine in order to logistically transport through multiple hubs equipment such as firefighting equipment, ambulances, etc., but also generators already. The question is, however, is that now cities can step in where national governments could start to rely on those cities where they have not done so far, which is why this initiative started, because cities have the capacity. Already around 500 have been put together through the civil protection mechanism, but the Ukrainians need thousands. And that's where cities such as the ones that Dario just mentioned, to mention just a few, have contacted us and says, we actually have those type of generators. Please give us the way to transport them and tell us how to get them there. And we will be working very closely and through also the civil protection mechanism to get this done as quickly as possible and as smoothly as possible, together with Mr. Yermak and his colleagues, who themselves are in touch with the network of Ukrainian cities, most of whom, around 30, are twinned with European cities. And have been for decades. I can say, I know that Florence has been twinned with Kiev since 1968. So this is a new layer of practical, tangible help that has to be utilized now, first of all because of scarcity of generators on the market, but also because of availability of generators in the cities. So you mentioned only Spain. I can tell you we will go after every single country in order to make sure that we have contributions from them.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Gentleman up there.
Max Delaney from AFP. A question for the President. Don't you think, I mean, this initiative seems very welcome, but don't you think that the EU as a whole needs to do more to come up with an emergency package to supply this sort of equipment? Mr. Yermak listed gave a whole list of other equipment that's needed urgently to help Ukraine through this winter, because we haven't seen anything major on a European scale yet. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this question. I mean, of course, we can always do more, and we will do more. This list, not only the one mentioned by Mr. Yermak, we have already received a list of the types of generators needed, different sizes, different types of buildings that they can keep functioning. I mentioned a hospital in my introductory words, but it could also be, for example, the heating of schools, large scale possibility of accommodating people whose homes are either destroyed or have no electricity and heating. In terms of what has been done, I mean, the civil protection mechanism that was launched for Ukraine has seen hundreds of thousands of tons of aid delivered already to Ukraine. The specific requests by Mr. Yermak, for example, for the transformers, and because of the way the attacks are happening, they are targeting the specific nodes of electricity market. So it's a very targeted attack in order to cut off individual cities, parts of cities, buildings in cities. So it is not indiscriminate, it is particularly targeted in order to shut down parts of the population, especially the most vulnerable ones. So this, I can tell you, is one where we have decided as a parliament to also, besides the financial assistance, we vote on the 18 billion macro-financial assistance to Ukraine tomorrow in this parliament. We voted on a resolution today. But in terms of the technical and practical assistance, we can also do more. And I can tell you that since I've been in this parliament, and also since I've had the responsibility of occupying this role, so many members of this parliament are connected with their cities or have been mayors of cities. And they have been saying, what more can we do? This is the extra mile that this parliament can take in order from a practical and logistical point of view, use already the routes and the mechanisms that are in place, but to add to the ever-increasing needs that the Ukrainians have.
Thank you very much, Roberta. I see no more questions. So with that, I will thank Mr. There was one there, sorry.
Oui, bonjour, Christine Beauce, France Télévisions. J'avais juste une question vraiment très concrète sur le plan logistique. Comment ça va se passer? Donc, c'est le mécanisme de protection civile, c'est ça, qui va acheminer. Mais concrètement, si une ville se manifeste, elle s'adresse à qui? Comment ça se passe concrètement, en fait? Merci.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, so the mechanism is there, which means that what we will do this afternoon is connect to the civil protection mechanism, where all the national authorities are there. We will then diffuse the request to the cities through Eurocities. In other words, the request will come. As soon as a city manifests interest, they will be able to link up. For example, in France, it is, I can tell you, it's a great model of the way civil protection works. and then the logistical transport will be taken by the civil protection to one of 3 hubs that the European Union has, and depending on the distance between that hub and the specific city or the specific part of Ukraine that will need either the generators or the transformers or the supply connectors that were listed will be sent from that hub. It will be all coordinated, and what I would like to see, and this is what we are going to work on, is a track in order to see when the interest is manifested in a few days, how quickly can we get. The generators are ready and are ready to be used, so they can be sent quite quickly through this mechanism that is already in place.